Be Your Best You, the Passionate to Purpose podcast with David Delaney. Good morning and welcome to the Be Your Best You Passion into Purpose podcast with me, David Delaney. €250,000 in just under 8 days. How do you do that? A fundraising initiative for the Matter Foundation, which has Angi McNulty at the helm. Angi, my guest this morning, has been involved in charity fundraising for over 20 years and brings her passion into the purpose, which in this case is raising much needed funds for the Matter Foundation. Angi has a team behind her. Angi has managed to get over 6,000 people behind her who are all fundraising for this wonderful cause. What drives someone like Angi to do the very, very important work that she does? If you're curious, keep listening. Angi McNulty, good morning.
Good morning from beautiful Dublin. How are we all doing?
We are all doing great. It's great to see you. Of course, I can see you on the recording, and our listeners, great to hear you.
Oh, thank you. And hello, listeners from all over the world.
All over the world. Angi, I want to get straight into it. You are 1,000,000 miles a minute at the moment doing 100 miles for Matter. Tell me about that, and then we'll go back and talk about why you do what you do, if that's okay. So let's get the publicity plug out of the way.
We'll get the publicity plug out of the way. Well, at the moment, I have the wonderful job of looking after what I call our 100 milers. So we've set a challenge. The Mater Hospital is one of Ireland's finest national hospitals. And of course, we need to fundraise and be the best we can be. So what we have at the minute is we have a challenge going on for the month of February. And we reach out to people, and it's for them to consider running, walking, jogging, dancing, whatever you'd like, 100 miles in February. And I'm in the middle of the challenge myself, but I also manage our wonderful, the world of COVID has flung us into the world of the virtual. So I have a fantastic group at the minute of 6,000 people actually at the minute that are walking, running, jogging, you name it. They're 100 miles for the Mater Hospital, and it's incredible. And I suppose I can let you know, as of today, we've raised €250,000. Wow. Which is phenomenal, but the Matter, as we all know, does amazing work, and I'm grateful to be part of it. I've recently moved from looking after the kids down the road in Temple Street. I was there for 20 years, and now recently I'm up in the Mater Hospital. And I suppose the wonderful thing about this is I have, and it's quite a surreal thing, really. And everybody says what's for you won't pass you by, or you're meant to be where you are at this particular moment in time. But I have encountered about 6 of my wonderful patients that would have, I suppose, grown or lived their lives with me in Temple Street, and are now in the care of the Mater Hospital. And I have a huge interest in, I suppose, transitional care for children who move from a pediatric facility to an adult facility. It's not easy. So I'm where I am now, doing the same thing as I've always done and loving every bit of it. I get great joy. The joy I get in life is people's joy, and seeing them happy and seeing them achieve goals that they'd never really think they achieved in the hardest of situations. That's what brings me great joy. I suppose, being in the business for 20 plus years now, So Shinawil.
Okay. Well, first, fair play. I mean, $250,000. We're recording this on the 8th of February, which is practically just a week into the challenge. I mean, that's pretty good going. So fair play. And the 6,000 people joining you, it's no mean feat to commit to something like that. So there's good people out there still. And I mean, where do you get? Okay, so what do you do to get 6,000 people to say, okay, Ange? I mean, you're a hard woman saying no to, I'd imagine. How do you get 6,000 people not to say no to you?
I'll tell you, it's quite interesting, really, because I would be a very tactile person. So it was a huge learning exercise. This crazy COVID. Quite in. I've both loathed and enjoyed this experience. But basically, as I said, digital. The world of digital, we had to reach out to our people, and I suppose you reach out and you say, "Can you help me?" And you create these amazing kind of funnels of love. But I suppose when hundreds and thousands of people attend these hospitals, okay, and particularly the matter, okay, what you have is you have patients. I have patients at the minute that are undergoing serious treatment, that are getting up their miles. Plus, you have the departments in the hospital who are probably working morning, noon, and night, and they just need, I don't know, like you and I have passed each other on the road and we give the honorable wave. Okay, we're from the same neck of the woods, But I find that even if you get out for half an hour, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, whether it be a run or a jog or a walk, it's good for the mind, it's good for the body, and it's good for the soul. Do you know what I mean? And you have these people that might be hooked up to a machine for 4 or 5 hours of the day, you know, getting the body well or as well as it can be to get better, they'll want to get out, they'll want to feel the air on their faces. So it's I suppose how you reach out to them and how you appeal to them. And I suppose the projects that you appeal towards, we're living in a tough old world at the minute, and I'm going to, in layman's terms, pieces of equipment now, and this is a very basic description, pieces of life-saving equipment, hundreds and thousands of quids worth. They break down, they need to be upgraded. They're the same as a hairdryer, washing machine, or television. They both have a function, but they need to be continuously replaced, and I suppose that's what drives me, the running of hospitals and all that. I'm not a bit political, not a bit. If we become political, forget about it. That's not what you do. That's not why you do what you do, But I suppose once or twice a week, and especially today, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are my kind of hospital days, and I'm making my business, I suppose, to walk through the corridors. And I'd be a people watcher or people observer, and you'll see the very vulnerable, or you'll see somebody that's been accompanied by a mother or a son or a daughter or a carer or a guardian or whatever. You'll see these people, okay, you'll see people on their own. And I'm very socially aware of that. I see it. And then you look at maybe a member of staff, like I'm funny. I set up a little stand there before Christmas, and just to meet and greet the staff in the morning, just to have a mass card for somebody or a Christmas card, and I made it my business. I was there at 7 o'clock when things wake up a lot earlier in the hospital, but just for people hustling and bustling. And I made it my business. I must have said, "Good morning, how are you?" about 3,000 or 4,000 times, okay? Because what you had is, you have people with their head down, okay? But then you have a mad lunatic like me with mad crazy head of hair, and I probably had a bauble or two because it's Christmas time hanging out with me too. But they'd look and I said, "Good morning, how are you? You well?" La 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 la. And next thing, the face had come up and a smile had come upon people, because that might have been the only person that they would have reacted with, for a number of hours, and it's very important to be aware of your surroundings and aware of your people, and just, I'm not saying be a total people watcher, but just to be a little bit aware of how people might be or might feel, So how did I get 6,000 people? We asked them. We sent them out a wonderful top if they signed up and they registered onto the page, and they're part of this wonderful group of like-minded people. Not everybody in their lifetime, not everybody will be able to walk 100 miles. They'd never even think of it. The light switch wouldn't go on to do it. You'd probably You know, I've been calculating my miles now, but I'd never normally calculate one of them Fitbit jokes. And to be honest, the batteries are out about 3 or 4 times. But you know yourself, and there's a feck it now, and you become so self-aware of this joke. Oh, I'm 10,000 or 10,000 steps. I'm brilliant, la la la, or 20,000, 30,000. And you'd be a lunatic looking at it, and you trip over yourself and stuff like that. But what I have found, and I'm on day 8 of this myself, I am not a runner. I would motivate runners, and it would be my job to motivate people in general, and that's what gives me great joy. But I do find it, I'm in the zone now, is what I'd say. You know, I was up early this morning, you know, off the train, walked from Houston to the Mater, done a little bit of a live feed so I could post it into the group, you know. And people, the reaction like we have in this particular group at the minute, and it's lovely, and they're like-minded, and you've walkers, runners, joggers, but they're all doing it for the one thing. They're doing it for a cause that they believe in. Some of them are runners, they love an hour run, and they're getting their miles up, and I'm getting maps posted here, there, and everywhere. But some of them are doing it in memory of parents that have passed away or siblings. Again, as I said before, some of them are members of our own department over there at the hospital. Some of them are being treated at the minute, and just it's to let the air and the wind at their face. Some of them are recovering from COVID and have just been released from the house, and they're going out of the traps like greyhounds. Some of them have long COVID, and they're finding it quite difficult to maneuver, you know. I even had a lady there last week, and she said, my children have the COVID now, Angie, what am I going to do? I said, do it within your house, do it whatever way you feel comfortable doing it, you know, because a challenge is a great thing, you know. And as I said earlier on, not everybody is able to do these types of things. And sometimes it's just a little light switch to say, we need your help, you know, and with your help, the masses, this is what we're going to achieve, you know.
I'm curious, Angie, you've 6,000 people behind you, right? And in the scheme of things, as you mentioned, the machines and that kind of stuff, like 250 million, it's not. I mean, it's not going to make it, you know, because it'll be absorbed into the work that needs to be done, and that's why we're here talking about the importance of fundraising and ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
But I am curious about what motivates you. You motivate people, and you're there, and I've seen the videos. I've seen you putting the washing out the line and dancing and having a great crack and talking to people at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. What motivates you to do this?
What motivates me? I suppose I have, for the first 10 years of my life, I was in the corporate world, okay, but very heavily involved in kind of the social aspects of things and stuff like that. Then, like a light switch, one of the days I said, right, Angie, you're going to career change and whatever, you know, and this is what you'd like to do. And I found myself kind of, do you remember Annika Rice? Do you remember she used to hop out with the helicopters years ago in a lovely cat suit? I'm not, it would be quite a fright, me
We
hopping
keep
out
up
of a
videos for
helicopter in
that
a
one.
cat suit. But I would. Just
That's the next challenge.
the impact wouldn't be the same. But I just took a notion, and I said, "What, you know, there has to be more to life. You know, what can I do? What to be the best you can be? You know." And I suppose my personality defines my character. I am as mad as a box of frogs. I was a lot more crazier in my younger days. I'm a 50-year-old fresh young lady nowadays, you know. But I still have this continuous spark to do mad, wacky stuff and bring groups of people together. So I suppose at this stage in my life, I love the crazy stuff. You know, when I was trekking all over the world and bringing groups away here, there, and everywhere, when that was a cool thing, I done that. And I both loved the travel aspect of things. I loved gathering a group and getting them ready for action, and I loved what it achieved at the end. So there was a kind of a start, middle, and end to it. now what motivates me is people motivate me. I work very, very closely with people who who are absolutely empowering. You know, when you have a family member who say is struggling desperately, okay, who's extremely ill, you know, and you have an organization that are doing their utmost to keep that person well, alive, that their quality of life is brilliant. And then you have a family kind of coming together, you know, doing the best they can, trying to keep everything going at home. It might be a father at home and a mother sick, and there might be a full household to run at home, you know, and this particular person is 2 or 3 or 4 times a week getting treatment, and then trying to come home and be either a brother or a sister or a mother or a parent. Do you know what I mean? It's very difficult. And in the middle of it all, they take on this amazing, say, community fundraiser where they bring all the community on board. Okay. They're the type of people that I will work with on a continuous basis, you know. The bereaved families. We have an incredible place over in the matter at the minute, but sometimes, you know, people don't make it, and sadly they don't, and hearts are broken, and but they would have received quite a bit of care for probably a long, long time. As I said earlier on, you know, I have met 4 or 5 of the families of the children that I would have looked after down the road in Temple Street who have transitioned to adult care. That means that that's a lifelong illness, you know, that needs care and moves from one place to another. So that type of stuff. Like I remember there in November last year, we introduced, uh, reintroduced, I suppose, when COVID was kind of getting nice and we didn't know whether we were allowed to go out or stay in or whatever. But at this particular stage, we had a fantastic remembrance walk, just a 5 kilometer walk. And I met about 60 families that day that were there in memory of a member of their family, you know, and it was a lovely way for them to gather. But I also had about 4 who came along who were very grateful for the person who donated their heart or their lung. And I had a fabulous girl there, and she was walking in memory of the person who gave her heart and her lung. Do you know what I mean? So it's incredible stuff. So I am very empowered by people. I'm very empowered about that. There's a huge amount of good in everybody and kindness. And I suppose at this stage in the game, yeah, that's what motivates me. I'm getting a great kick out of, like, I didn't think I'd have to, you know, I suppose I motivate this particular group, so I'm very conscious that I say good morning to them, or I say good night to them, or say how was your day, you know, because everybody has their own challenge. Everybody's to get and do the same thing. So some for some people it's easy; they'll have it done in a week or two, you know. For others, it'll be out to the wire. So it's important that they have somebody at the other end of a connection tool, and that for this particular one, it's a Facebook group. You know, who knows what it's going to be in the next couple of months with. It could be Instagram, TikTok, who knows. But this particular one is quite a large Facebook group. But that people, what motivates me, people, and the good in people, and them reaching goals or challenges that they never probably thought they would. You know, I get a great bit of. I run this trip in America, say, for example. I've ran it 9 times now since 2000. It's a motorcycle trip across Route 66, and we had to skip it, and they're heading out again in September 2022. You know, but what gives me a great, you know, you'll see mad men and you know, you think 100 fellas and throw their leg over the back of a motorbike and go from Chicago to Los Angeles, and you see kind of men in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they'll turn into what could you say, 5-year-old children, because they're given this big iron horse, and they throw on the leathers, and they're away down the road now like a matter of hell. I know every inch of that road at this stage, every state number, but I get great joy out of them because they're just brilliant.
What do you do, right? You're a mile a minute yourself. And this is probably the most serious and probably that I've seen you. And is there, when the off switch, and I don't know if there is one, right? When it's, what do you do to unwind, or when it's downtime? Do you switch off? Can you switch off? And what do you do when it's that kind of time?
I do switch. It's rare that I would switch off. I do switch off. I do go for I do guided meditation. I do enjoy that. I do that with a lovely girl called Angi McNulty in Portlaoise. I find that fantastic. My two beautiful children, Liam and Kate. Liam is 16, Kate is 9. So I get great joy with them. And then my daddy, he turned 76 there yesterday. So it was lovely. It was lovely that he's with us now. My youngest brother sadly took his own life in 2010. Poor Peter. And Mam then passed away in 2015. So that was a huge shock within the family unit. So we're quite a tight knit family. We're like, I often call it, we're like the Waltons, basically, nothing short of it. We had 5 brothers and 3 sisters, Mam, Dad, and 2 dogs, and a clatter of dogs. And then what we have now is we have a huge, my brothers and sisters my brothers would have and sister would have had kids too. So we've the nieces and the nephews. So I suppose family time is important to me. I was very lucky. At the age of 50, I found love again, which is a great thing. I didn't think that had ever happened. And the kids, but I do my quiet time. I'm involved in the musical society, so I can't wait to get going at that again. I have sang over the years with a number of bands in town. Be it, I suppose, it's not the performing end of things that I enjoy. It's nearly, I prefer kind of practicing to go on stage rather than performing. But I have a bit of a bellowy voice now. So we had a soul band at one stage. Now I don't know whether we'll ever reform. We'd be a fairly vintage soul band.
Never say never.
If we reform, but I do enjoy that. I do like the family. I'm blessed. The kids love musical theatre also. So I'm very lucky. Liam, he is. And is showing fine signs of being a wonderful kind of comedic character actor. So I hope he considers, looking at that into the future. Kate is as arty as the day is long. She'll sing and dance and do all that. But and I get great joy. Like my dad is he's an electrician by profession, but he's also a very learned man. Very humble and quiet soul, but he's also he's a profound writer and poet, like he's, and none of his stuff is published, but I get great joy in him. And yesterday, particularly for his 76th birthday, he big smile on the face, and we ordered an Indian in, and with the cake, the usual bit, but he was surrounded by his grandchildren. And I suppose family brings me great joy. Home life, whenever I get private time, what do they call it? My ins out and my outs in, because you lead such a kind of a busy lifestyle. And when you're networking and chatting, and don't get me wrong, I love chatting. Like I'd much rather be sitting having coffee face to face with you, but we're on the Zoom, as they say. But I'm far more tactile. I suppose I miss that. I miss it in one sense of the word. But I'm going to be very selfish and say I like it too. But that, do you know what? We're creatures of habit. Once you get used to one thing, it's like standing in a queue in Bullall or something in town. Now get away from me.
Yeah.
You're breathing on me. Move away. but it's that type. But that's where the creatures of habit come into form.
Yeah, I'm curious. I have this image in my head of you sitting down and the choices when you're a kid. You can go to the nuns or you can do something else. What did you want to be when you grew up?
What do I want to be? That is a very interesting question. I suppose when I thought I wanted to be a nurse at one stage, and I remember spending two good summers with the nuns in Our Lady's Manor in Bullock Harbour in Dalkey as a nurse's aide. I really did. I thought I'd be a good old nurse at one stage, And then I suppose I thought I'd be a fantastic performer too. But I suppose I kind of had a marketeering mind then, and I was very lucky. I secured a position with, do you remember IAWS years ago? Yeah. Do you remember? I'll tell you now how you know. Shamrock Foods. Do you remember the dried
Yes.
nuts and the sultanas
Aye.
and the raisins and stuff?
Yes.
So I secured a role out there in Dean's Grange, working with them. I spent 10 years with them. It was very, very, very enjoyable. So I remember the products, Shamrock Foods, and then the other one was Master Foods, that done all the kind of the Mars at the time and the dog food and the cat food and all that madness, when we moved from Dean's Grange into Ballymount. And I spent 10 years of my life there, marketeering and taking pictures of product and trying to, again, dealing with the public, about what their thoughts were on this, that, and the other, and recipes and all that sort of crack. But anything, I suppose, that involved people, I was kind of at my best and at my happiest in. And when I moved to Temple Street down the road, I suppose it was timing too. Timing's a great thing. It was at a time when people were they wanted to do mad, wacky things like run marathons, go to Chicago, do New York, climb Mount Everest, climb Kilimanjaro. Do you know what? Head trekking in Costa Rica, over to Borneo, Vietnam, Venezuela. So I got, the way you take a sabbatical and I'm going off trekking and I won't be back. I'm heading off to the jungles for 6 months. I was very lucky because for the first, I suppose, decade of my career, I got to do them things. What did I want to be? I suppose I didn't really know. I think I wanted to be involved with people and probably I wanted to do a little bit of traveling, but I was also a home bird too, so it kind of, everything kind of aligned at the time in my life where it aligned. Like, yes, you had a career in marketeering and stuff like that, and that was fine. Okay. And I spent 10 years and there were 10 good years there, but there was still something, when you feel as if I need to do more, I need to give more back, and I'm not feeling this. So the time came where I woke up and I remember coming around the corner just down the road from here and saying to myself, do you know what I done? I said a prayer to my granny. I'll never forget it. When I was coming up for the interview around the corner, I said, now if this is for me, make sure I get it, And I remember and this is the weirdest part of it. I remember I didn't, and in hindsight I should have prepared, but by then I was working somewhere for 10 years. I hadn't prepared for an interview. And I was just thinking, I haven't interviewed. Like, what do you do? What are your skills? Like, what do I say? What do I say? Like I'd never do that now if I was re-interviewing for somewhere else, because you nearly have to have a PowerPoint and 3 or 4 little scenarios, But when the lady that was interviewing me said, now tell us a bit about yourself, the usual paraphernalia that you have to go. And I'll never forget what I said, and it was probably the most incorrect thing you could ever say. And I said, well, what you see is what you get. and and literally what you see is what you get. With me, there's no airs, there's no graces, there's no nothing like that. But I was lucky enough to get the job. I couldn't believe it. And then there's the goodbye and good luck with people that I suppose it's when you're working in a place for so long, people become your family. You have your family at home, and then you have your work family. And you nearly spend as much time with your work family as you do your family, between the jigs and the reels and everything. So it was very emotional to say goodbye to the company I worked for. And the same thing happened again 20 years later. It was hugely emotional to say goodbye, but I'm here where I am now, and it really fits like a glove, and it feels it's nearly like a journey in life. You're meandering here and you're meandering there, but I'm where I am now, happily, and happy to help in whatever way I can. I'm happy to be the voice at the other end of the phone, or the voice across the table to say, well, we want to do something, you know, what can we do? And I'd normally say, well, what would you like to do? And it'd come back, well, we'd like to do this, that, and the other. And my advice, because I specialize in event management, that's what I specialize in, and mentorship, is I'll meet families, and I'm dealing with groups of 6 or 7, and I always nominate a spokesperson. Okay. And then we'll set up a little WhatsApp group so everybody's singing off the same hymn sheets. And then we'll normally have a little group meeting or whatever, and that'll be, if anybody has any opinions, we can vomit them into the middle of the table and we'll fix it then. So I suppose I'm where I am now. I did at the probably my first 10 years, I was in work mode basically. But you come to a stage in your life, where you're nearly searching for something else, and your body will tell you, I'm going through the motions, and life is grand, and I'll get up and I'll go here and I'll spend my day, but at some stage something will click and say, well, I can get more out of my body and my mind and my soul if I try something else. So I was lucky. I was very lucky. I spent 20 amazing years with the finest of people, patients, parents, staff, communities. And I'm here now, and I'm doing the very same thing, and I consider myself very lucky to meet the many people that I do meet, and to hear their stories and let them share stories with me, because sometimes you think, oh God, life is awful, Jesus, I have the worst life in the world. But Holy Mother of God, to sit down and listen to some of the stories that people have to share, I consider myself grateful, to be honest, and you can only do your best. David, you know that, and I know you can only do your best, but there for the grace of God we all go, something will hit you like a ton of bricks, and you'll say, oh God. And it'll take you about 24 to 48 hours to process it. And then you say, right, okay, let's go on again. Lift and drive, is this.
I absolutely love, I think that has to win an award for the best interview question ever. What you see is what you get. And look, Temple Street were lucky to get you, Shamrock Foods were lucky to get you, and Matter are absolutely lucky to get you as well. I want to ask you, I want to ask you who inspires you and why.
Who inspires me and why? There's a couple of people. I suppose my mother would have always inspired me. She was the matriarch of the house, and very learned woman. Well, I suppose after having 8 kids and 8 personalities, like a big bag of dolly mixtures, but she ruled the roost. And she took care of the household, and we got an awful land. Now, we got an awful land when poor Peter decided to head off head off to the lovely blue skies at the age of 25, but he suffered a lot for a while now, and I think that took its toll on her. 5 years later, she developed a brain tumor, and she was taken away from us kind of very, very quickly. About 9.5 weeks it took her to lose all sense of speech, movement, and everything, and to watch a very strong, powerful, wonderful, kind lady get very ill so quickly. That broke her heart, and she spent some time in St. Luke's, but we took her home and took care of her for the last 3 weeks of her life, and we done up a room in the house, and all the family looked after her, and we sang her off. I remember with Father Paddy in the room, and she was surrounded by, we gave her a huge sing song when she was in her last few moments, and she knew, even though it was nearly like everything was locked in, and there was no, but I knew, I would have known that she would have heard and listened, but that she was wonderful. She was great. She was wonderful to all her grandchildren, all her family, understood their faults, understood their weaknesses, and understood their strengths profoundly, and then poor daddy had to poor Tim had to kick in, but he's super. Yeah, he would be a huge inspiration to us. He's quite learned. He's the perfect father. He's the perfect grandfather. Very good to his families, and again understands their strengths, faults, and weaknesses, and we all have them. But in our house, we have we celebrate all successes, no matter how big or how small. You always celebrate success and good stuff. We work around the bad stuff. We figure it out. We process it, and we decide as a family. And I suppose my family would be a huge inspiration to me, because we're in, and I suppose all families are hit with huge challenges and stuff like that. But for ours, I suppose, because there's so many of us, as I said, we're like the walls, and we're a well-known family. When you're hit with something like that, you have to process it, and you nearly have to have a kind of a committee around the kitchen table and just say, listen, what do we do here? What do we do there? So I suppose my parents and my family, it's not going to be a president here or a president there. Do you know what I mean? My son recently had a diagnosis of dyslexia and ADHD, bless him, and I am very proud of him and the way he's handled the scenario, because it's come at a very late stage. So he'll have a little long road ahead of him now, and we're working through that, but he's a hugely talented boy, so I'm sure he'll be perfectly fine. But I watched how he journeyed through that over the last couple of months, and I am very proud of the way he's handled that. But yeah, family is a huge thing. Yeah, family is a huge thing, and close friends too. I'm very lucky, and I can only, I suppose, you have friends that are social acquaintances, but I've a good cluster of good friends that I've been friends with for many a year, so I know I could call upon them at any stage, So that's really what inspires me.
You are an inspiration. I mean, it's we're coming on time, and I have one more question to ask you before we go. But I just want to say thank you. The work you're doing. I mean, again, 250 million, or sorry, 250,000, a quarter of a million. I've no doubt that you'll reach 250 million because you're just one of these inspirational people. Like, come on. But it's fascinating. As like a lot of people see you, or you have this persona that you're constantly going, and thank you for sharing a little bit behind the scenes of what drives you, and it's inspirational to hear. You are an inspiration. I want to ask you before we go, how can people empty their pockets and give you loads of money?
That's very simple now. I suppose we're blessed to have a wonderful hospital. The Mater Hospital in Dublin. Everybody globally is familiar with this amazing hospital. There's 4,000 people on campus. It's a teaching hospital. It's a transplant hospital, spinal injuries. It looks after end-of-life care. We have a psychiatric unit. You name it, we've got it. So if you know of anybody that you'd like to support within the hospital or any of the departments, okay, all you have to do is reach out to me. I'm on the website, but you can log on to www.matterfoundation.ie. That's MATERFOUNDATION.ie. And we'd be delighted to help you. If you're considering doing anything particularly crazy that I would love to be involved in, you just look for Angie and I will be there for you with a heartbeat. Okay, David, where are we going next?
Wonderful. We're going to wrap up, which is lovely. Angi McNulty, thank you very, very much for joining us this morning.
Bless your heart, and thanks to all your listeners. Take care, darling.
And that's it for another week. Thanks for joining us this morning, and do join us next time on Be Your Best You. Have a good week.